Well, hello YouTubers, and welcome back to another video here in my channel. I'm sitting today in front of my wall of sound here, and I'm going to show you some records that I bought the last month or so and what I think about them. But first I'm going to show you two records that I actually haven't played yet, although I'm well aware of the contents and so on. But I thought I'd like to show you this because I've never seen this kind of packaging before. And we have two singles here, and as you can see it says oldies, 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 oldies. And I don't know whether these were made for jukeboxes, but I found a bunch of these still in plastic and shrink wrapped. But I bought only two because the other titles didn't really interest me. We got here Charlie Ridge, Behind Closed Doors, and I Take It On Home on the Epic Memory Lane label. I've never seen this before. Quite nice, quite pretty. Blue and yellow. And then we have Randy Newman, Short People, Old Man of the Farm, on the Warner Brothers Burbank label, as you can see here. These were, as far as I can see, originally sold at the Jefferson store for $1.49. So these come from USA. Then these have been sold in Sweden. They've been imported and sold at, actually I can't really say what it says on the red labels here, but for 9 kronor and 90 öre, that's 10 kronor, that's around $1 maybe. And then they were sold for 25 kronor, but these I bought, well actually I got them for free because I bought some other records at the same time. So, as I've said, I haven't opened these yet, but I will. But I thought I'd show you these nice, interesting way of packaging old hits, because I've never seen it before, and I thought it was a bit fun. Right. First record to show. I bought this several months ago, but I haven't got to listen to it until now. The Best of the Supremes, featuring the Four Tops, and it's a Swedish compilation with material from the Supremes led by Gene Terrell in the early 70s, and also material from the collaboration albums that the Supremes made with the Four Tops. And one reason why I haven't really listened to this earlier, well, not just lack of time, but also I'm not really a fan of the Supremes because I've always thought that they were too syrupy and too sweet and too polished and a bit boring actually. One of my pet hates is Diana Ross, but this is after Diana Ross had left, and also after Berry Gordy had, well, after he stopped showing any major interest in the Supremes. So this is with Gene Terrell, Cindy Birdsong, and Mary Wilson as the original member, and it's a great compilation. I'm going to look for more of the Supremes albums that were made in the early 70s with Gene Terrell, because they seem to be very well worth investigating and finding out more about. Also, the cooperation with the Four Tops sounds very nice, and yeah, it's a bit more soul than we're used to hear from the Supremes, and maybe what that we are used to hear from Motown. Well, being a bit mean there, but well worth having, and yeah. Now we go to another record that I've been looking for a long time. It's Booker T and the MGs, Melting Pot, from 1971, I think. It's German pressing, and this is of course the last album before the group disbanded, or rather reformed, as the MGs without Booker T. Booker T. Jones, and this is often named as their best album, and that's one reason why I have been trying to find it, because I've got many Booker T and the MGs albums, but not this one. But now I do, and I can well understand it, because this is amazing. I mean, long, groovy, with the wonderful rhythm and bass playing and drum playing, and Steve Cropper's guitar and the organ by Booker T. Jones. They ended at the top, so to speak. And if you haven't got it, try to get a hold of a copy, because it's great. It's a bit less commercial than the other Booker T and the MGs albums, but musically it's fantastic. Oops, let's see. Almost dropped it, but I didn't. Right, Marta Kubishova. Have you heard of her? Well, if you're from the former Czechoslovakia, I'm sure you have heard of her, because she was a bit of a pop star, but also famous for being a brave artist, a political artist. Today she's more of a political symbol of the late 60s and early 70s, because she didn't make that many recordings, but she made some recordings that were critical against the political events that happened in Czechoslovakia in the late 60s, and that led to her being banned, more or less. Actually, she was banned for appearing on some fake nude photos in the early 70s. Can you imagine that? Fake nude photos, and she was banned for. So she couldn't really appear as an artist until the late 80s, where the communism was dying off. But apart from the political significance, she was also a great singer, or she still is. I think she's still. I don't know if she's active, but she's alive. Great pop music, great beat music, well worth exploring. This is a compilation from 2009 on the Vampy Soul label. I was happy to find this. I didn't know that much about her, but this is a double album, so lots of interesting material from Marta Kubishova. There we go. Yeah, right. Ashta Puthli, or how you now pronounce her name. She loves to hear the music, which I think is the second album by this great singer. Those of you who are familiar with her may not recognize this sleeve, because this is a Japanese pressing, and they had a different photograph of this, or different album cover, so she looked even more seducing on this one. She mixes Indian culture with soul music and pop music and beat music and disco in a very appealing way. A very good voice, and many different layers in her musicality, I have to say that. And this was the first record I found by her, and I thought, well, I have to agree. Of course, one reason was that I got really curious from this sleeve. Yes, I am just a human being. But there's more to this record than the sleeve. It's a great album, and she's a great singer. Ashta Puthli. If that's how you pronounce it, I'm not really sure. Okay. This is another one that I bought for the sleeve. Africana by Horst Wende and his orchestra. And we have African pop songs like Zambesi, Skokian and other songs. But of course Horst Wende. I didn't know who Horst Wende is, but I understood that this is some sort of easy listening on the Polydor label. It's from 1960 and it has the wonderful, beautiful orange Polydor label, and you have the nice Polydor logo here. And so, of course, I got interested, but also sometimes I found that when Western musicians make their early adaptations and versions of music from other cultures, it can turn out to be quite interesting musically, and I think this is a very appealing, easy listening, but still easy, enjoyable record. And Horst Wende, I had no idea who that was until I googled him and found out that, alright, well, I've seen his name on loads of records, but, or not his name, but he's more famous for using the name Roberto Delgado. So I had no idea his real name was Horst Wende. So, yep, very nice, I have to say this, from 1960. And about now, when we're talking about some odd stuff, we have John Keating's Space Experience, where we have different pop songs, both compositions by John Keating, but also we got Sounds of Silence, Paul Simon, Jesus Christ Superstar, Star Trek, I Feel the Earth Move by Carole King. Yeah, we got lots of synthesizers here, and it's very spacey, very far out, and it's from 1972, and it's on in the EMI Columbia Studio 2 series. That series that made lots of records with easy listening music. This is a bit on the edge of easy listening, psychedelia, space, odd, but very appealing, I have to say that. I'm happy I found this. Sorry. Right. Our old friend Lee Hazelwood here. But it's not the album 20th Century Lee. This is in fact an early 12-inch 45 record, a maxi single as we call them, with Indian Summer, and on the other side, Whole Lotta Shaking Going On. This is a Swedish recording. He was active in Sweden in the 1970s, from 1976, and it must be one of the earliest Swedish maxi single issues. I haven't really heard of any earlier than 1976. We got all the great Swedish musicians accompanying him. We got Janne Schaffer on electric guitar, we got Björn Gison Lind on flutes and synthesizers, we got bass player Rutger Gunnarsson, guitar player Lasse Westman, drummer Douglas Westlund, all the Swedish studio elite. And yeah, what's there more to say? I've noticed that these 70s issues with Lee Hazelwood that were made in Sweden, they are becoming more and more expensive, because there are so many international record collectors who are interested in Lee Hazelwood's records and want these. And of course these were made for the Swedish market, so not that many were pressed if you compare it to when he was active in the United States. So, yeah. Nice early maxi single by a great artist. I have only a couple more to show now. Okay, let's speed it up a bit. This is Memphis Horns on the Cotillon label from 1970. Great instrumental soul album by the people who played on loads of these recordings from Memphis in the late 60s. Of course, I think of Wayne Jackson now, the trumpet player who sadly passed away some weeks ago. He is, of course, very... You can really listen and enjoy his trumpet playing trumpet and flugelhorn, and also trombone playing on this album. Great. We got also on the saxophone Andrew Love and Floyd Newman, so great instrumental soul in the Memphis tradition. So I was very happy that I found it, and I found it just a couple of days after I heard that Wade Jackson had passed away. I heard it on Facebook. Right. Over to another record that I've been looking for quite some time. George Baker's Selection, Little Green Bag from 1970. This is a original Dutch pressing, well, they had a big hit with the title tune, Little Green Bag. Quite rightly, because it's one really great song, especially the bass intro of Reservoir Dogs fame. Doom 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 doom. Yeah. Later records by George Baker's Selection are quite easy to find. He had a big hit in the mid-70s with Paloma Blanca, as you all are familiar with, but I think this is quite a lot better, especially the title song, Little Green Bag. And I don't think this bag looks that small, actually. It looks like it could fit quite a lot. Actually, I've heard that the original, actually his singing is Little Green Back, but his Dutch pronunciation made it sound like Little Green Bag, so of course the song was renamed to Little Green Bag. So it's many people think it's about drugs, but Little Green Bag, of course, that's about money. Yeah. Who cares? Okay, this is a record that I've been aware of it for since I was a child, because there's an image of it on the record that I had that I grew up with. I think it's on the RCA International label. That's a budget label, as you know, and I think it was on the back sleeve of maybe the Amazing Grace album from 1972 with the Scots Dragoon Guards on bagpipe. And of course on the back sleeve there were other records that had been recently issued. I remember Miriam Makeba and the Hammond organ player Rudolf Pache, or Pache, or however you say. But also this one, and you don't really understand what it is when you watch it, because it says different cooking. And I can tell you that this is a Swedish recording, but with different musicians from South America. Not sure about actually where in South America, but we have Peruvian influences, we have Brazil samba, we have it's like a big mix of Central America, Southern America, and we got, I can read from the sleeve here. These four gentlemen from countries far away met by chance in a Swedish radio studio and decided then to form a group, naming it Different Cooking. As extra cook in this musical cake with a South American flavor, they added Lars Samuelsson, arranger and producer, and incidentally the man who discovered them. So it's a Swedish recording made in 1970. We got percussionist Ray Marcos, Indian harp player Sergio Cuevas, and guitar player Emilio Bobadilla, and bassist and singer Don Pancho. And I've been googling this, but the names aren't that easy to Google because they are quite common names. But I think this Emilio Bobadilla still lives in Sweden, because I managed to. There's one guy called Emilio Bobadilla who lives in Sweden and who has the right age for. So, but I don't know. But it was interesting anyway, and it is also signed on the back sleeve, actually. Okay, but very nice. Not in tip-top condition, but definitely listenable and enjoyable. different cooking. If you find it, check it out, because it's quite rare. I rarely see it. I've been collecting records for 30 years. I haven't seen it before. And then finally, Sharon Mati Chatham's Fantasy. This is a reissue of a RCA Italia record from 1973, produced by, well, the great composer and arranger Giancarlo Reverberi. He used to use the name 90 as a composer, and he has composed around 50% of the material on this album. And what could we describe it as? Well, lounge music, easy listening, library, exotica, because we have both some cheesy versions of Daniel and Get Down and Sylvia's Mothers, the big hits of that time, early 70s, but also a quite funky version of Carly Simon, Joel Sylvain. But mainly the best songs here are the original compositions, like I've Got an Idea and well, I would say Running Home Together, and yeah, some of the others. So it's a bit cheesy at times, but also quite funky. Lots of synthesizers, lots of piano, some jazzy piano in the Vince Guaraldi style, and yeah, it's difficult to describe, but you can find material from this album on YouTube, so if you're a bit curious. I have no idea who Sharon Mati Chatham is. I wonder if that's just a name that was used for this album. I haven't been that lucky googling it, but it is a Gianfranco Reverberi production. Anyway, yeah. So that's all for now. I've been talking now for 22 minutes. Oh my goodness. Right, but I had some nice records to show. Time to continue enjoying music and enjoying the lovely summer here. And bye for now. Well, hello again. This is just a short PS to the video you've been watching. I'm sorry it's very long, but I have one more thing to add, an important thing that I absolutely forgot to mention, and that is the fact that Paul Simon issued a new album in early June, Stranger to Stranger. And I've been buying Paul Simon's new albums almost directly as I've got hold of them before. Even I've been, well, aware several months ahead when it's going to be issued. This time I had no clue, and of course there's no excuse to it. Excuse for it, I mean, but other than that, I probably just haven't been, well, as aware as I should be. Anyway, it was a happy surprise, and I have to say that Paul Simon never fails to impress. Paul Simon is always relevant, is always reinventing himself and finding new ways to present his musical ideas. In this sense, it was with the help of the so-called microtonal scales that the composer Henry Partch, I think that's how you pronounce his name, well, that he, I don't know if we could say discovered or invented or whatever, and Paul Simon took some help from the well, today late Dean Drummond at Montclair State University, to find music instruments and to find new sounds that he used on this album. And it both is focused on the present times in the lyrics also, and with new music ideas, and with some small glimpses into the past that we can find it. Well, we have musicians like Bakiti Kumalo and Vincent Ingini from earlier albums that it's always nice to hear them again. But the most important thing that I think is that you can't really imagine Imagine, this is a work created by a man who is in his mid-70s and it still sounds so young, so relevant and so alive. I've been a great fan of Paul Simon for well over 30 years, and my admiration just grows bigger and bigger for every year. This time, I have to say, a very good thing is that he put in a little leaflet here in which he talks about the different songs, how, his thoughts around them, the ideas for them, and so on. That's something I would like to see on all of his records, because I think it's very interesting to see the whole process. Where did the idea come from? How did it start? And so on. So, and well, the only thing that is a bit of a minus, but of course that is a bit of a plus in reverse. The only thing is that when I finished listening to this record, I knew, okay, it should have lasted a couple of more songs. We wanted more, but still, enough is enough. And Paul Simon keeps being one of the great songwriters of the last 100 years, and he continues to impress, and I will continue to be a big fan of him. That's it.